Traveling the Vortex.
We've joined the Doctor as he travels the Vortex. And this episode is in a box in the TARDIS labeled 244. I'm Keith.
I'm Sean.
I'm Glenn.
How are you guys?
Fine.
How are you?
Fine.
I'm pretty good. Not bad.
A warm welcome to everybody who's maybe joining us this week. And if you're a long-time listener, welcome. And if you're a new listener, welcome.
Let's get right down to it.
What'd you guys do?
Mason's sick. After a year of having his tonsils out and being strep-free, he got strep again, so he's not feeling well. He woke up yesterday morning with a sore throat, and he just started a nasal steroid for his allergies, and we thought maybe that was just a side effect, and so we didn't think anything about it. And then Sunday, this morning, he was still pretty sore, and so Holly took him to urgent care, and they said, yeah, he's got strep, so...
You're such a 10 o'clock news guy.
Unfortunately, the tonsils... I think the tonsils have helped because he used to get it,
You mean the lack of tonsils?
Yeah, tonsils out.
I thought for a minute he was going to say, I think the tonsils have grown back.
Yeah. He
Can that happen?
because after we got him out, he had problems. But prior to getting him out, he had strep all the time.
It was like once every 3 weeks, it seemed like,
Yeah,
with him.
pretty much. But Holly found out today from the doctor that there's a real harsh strain going around. So I think it's just a fluke.
So now it's just he's going to get it like other normal kids.
Right. I think he'll recover from it quicker too because he doesn't have the tonsils back there for it to kind of set in and fester the bacteria. So hopefully he'll get over it quick. But he's on antibiotics and can't go to school tomorrow can't go back until Tuesday. But he's excited because he feels fine. His throat's just sore and he never gets a fever when he gets strep. He used to get stomach aches when he with strep, but he doesn't have a stomach ache this time either. So,
Oh, that's good.
yeah. So nonetheless, that was that. And then we went and got Caitlin's iPad today. So,
Oh, is she excited to have an iPad?
oh yes, she was very excited. After some struggling with getting her Apple account, because she had an iPod, get her Apple account fixed because we had some password issues, but we got it taken care of. So that's done. But I'm about $100 and some poorer because it was her birthday present from us, but we weren't paying for all of it. Initially she asked for money and gift cards. And I told her that her gift from us would be the difference between what she doesn't get. So we went with her and I paid the difference. Which is nice because she bought the $350 one. So I only paid about a third of that.
She got a Wi-Fi only one, or did she get a
Wi-Fi only, yeah. And then
How many gig?
32, so she's got
envious.
twice as much as what I've got. But she bought the mini, so her screen size is smaller. But and then, since I'm on a roll here, I watched a few things this week. Actually, I watched Fast and Furious. No, excuse me, I watched Too Fast, Too Furious because I had watched Fast and Furious a few months back, and it was okay. It wasn't as good as the first one, but it was okay. It was good. And then I watched Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift. So far, is my least favorite. But
it seems to be the least connected.
It steps
too.
away. Well, it steps away from the Paul Walker storyline. And as Sean warned me, it's actually set prior to 6, right? So if you're watching him, it would make sense to go 1, 2, 4, 5
1,
Tokyo
2,
Drift.
4, 5.
Then
1,
6.
2, 4, 5, most of 6. Tokyo Drift,
There's
end
a
of
piece in
6.
it, yeah.
And then 7.
But I watched them chronologically because I'm smart enough to figure it out. So, it wasn't as good as the first two. It wasn't horrible, but it wasn't as good as the first two.
My understanding is they tried really, really hard to retcon that one back in later. So
Was it
I'll be curious on your
working
take
on
when
that
you get to that.
Was it different people working on Tokyo Drift? Is that why it was such a different...
I don't
Sorry?
know.
Familiar character shows up at the end, though. That was kind of neat. Somebody from the other two. Well, no.
I don't really care.
From
if you
from
spoil
another
me.
one.
I'm probably never going to watch it.
Actually, I'm not a motorhead. I don't like fast cars. I don't usually like fast car movies. But the first one was quite enjoyable because it got a really good story. The second one is a little more car
I
heavy.
enjoyed the first one was okay.
But the funny thing is, the first one's just kind of a heist film. The second one's it starts out as Miami Vice, then it becomes Smoking the Bandit, and then it goes to this really hardcore drug film. or drug dealer film. So it was kind of weird. And then Tokyo Drift's all about cars and the Japanese mafia. It's just kind of weak. That's the most car heavy one as far as I'm concerned. And I watched I watched something else this week. And then I watched House of Usher last night, starting my countdown to Halloween, because it occurred to me... It's
going to be a really long countdown.
It occurred to me that we were 2 months away.
Yeah.
Technically, today is the 31st, but Halloween falls on a Saturday this year, so it's 8 Saturdays from now. So, from yesterday.
Oh, so you're going to just watch a horror movie every Saturday?
No.
Just throughout the whole 2 months?
Throughout the whole 2 months.
Every day for the 2 months?
It's never too soon for Halloween. We'll probably put our decorations up. Not next weekend, because we got stuff going on, but the weekend after that. So
we have yet to buy Halloween decorations.
I saw you watched John Wick.
That was the other one. I knew there was another one. I'm glad you were there to remind me. John Wick is great.
Wasn't it awesome?
Oh my gosh, that was such a good.
And I don't like HBO list for a while.
That's where I watched it.
Yeah.
It's not. It just. I sat down in the middle of the afternoon. I thought, I don't have anything to do. The kids are busy. Holly was out, so I fired it up, and it's kind of nice having the TV downstairs now where I can get away and watch those kind of films. I'm not into ultraviolet films. Ultra-violent films, which it is, but it's such a good storyline. And the moral of the story is don't piss off John Wick. That's really
what that from the trailer.
That's what the show is. That's what the movie's about. Don't piss off John Wick. That's all it is. So it was enjoyable. I had fun.
I love the.
I might have to bump that up higher then on my queue.
It's only an hour and 40, so it's not even 2 hours.
That's not bad at all.
It's extremely well done. It's extremely well made, and it's just an enjoyable. It's a good movie.
What'd you guys do?
Sarah's feeling better.
Yay.
This is day 3 without headaches. Last Monday we went to the doctor and they took the staples out of her head, and she was still having headaches, and so she had to be 3 to 5 days without a headache before she could go back to work. And so the doctor put her on what I called conditional brain rest, where she could look at TV, she could look at computers, she could look at tablets and phones.
So long periods of time.
Yeah, it's just so long as when her head starts hurting, she stopped. And so throughout the week, her progress slowly got better and better. And so she was all better pretty much by yesterday, was feeling back to her normal self, which was really good.
Very good.
Yeah. Cody got his first vet visit. Got an ear infection, and so we got eardrops to put in his ears.
Aww.
And he got prescribed an antihistamine for the flea bites he had from the shelter. So hopefully this will help resolve some of his issues. We did watch a couple movies. We watched This Is Where I Leave You, which was really good. Tina Fey needs to do more serious acting. She is phenomenal in this movie. Oh, she is so good. And Jason Bateman's Jason Bateman. But an enjoyable Jason Bateman. A little bit more serious. Adam Driver. I don't know if it's going to be anything like his Star Wars role, but it's kind of nice to see him in something ahead of Star Wars. And yeah, I don't think I can heap enough praise on this movie. It was so well done. It was a nice balance of funny and serious. That's on HBO Go also. So that's how we watched it. And then we went and saw Fantastic Four today.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't as bad as people made it sound.
That's what I said.
I think I went into it with very low expectations. Very, very low. And there was a lot of stuff it didn't do right, but it wasn't bad. Some of the acting I wasn't too impressed with. Michael B. Jordan usually has great chemistry. And so does, what's her face? Kate Mara? And they just had none. And I don't know how much of that was Miles Teller is not a good actor. Or the writing was stiff. I don't know. It just felt very stiff. But it's not a superhero movie at all. It's a science fiction film where they kind of accidentally get superpowers and then quasi become a team at the end. Sarah enjoyed it way more than I think she thought she was going to, considering the reviews it got. And she was the one kind of looking forward to it. And she admitted still, even though she enjoyed it, that it's one of those movies that had higher aspirations than what it was, and it could have been so much better. It just fell flat. And I could see the aspirations in the film. And I remember you mentioning how there were so many things in the trailers that didn't make it in the final movie. And yeah, there was quite a bit.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see how much of those actually got filmed. Because like the one I'm predominantly speaking of could have been all just done in post. Because it's been dropping out of that plane.
Uh-huh.
So I wonder how much actually got shot of the action sequences that he ended up cutting or not.
I presume that a lot of that was shot and he just cut it. So
I'd be interested to see a director's cut to see if it improves it at all.
yeah, they're not getting along very well, so I don't see a director's cut in their future. So.
And if they got a good writing staff and good director, I think if they do a sequel, because Fox doesn't want to lose the rights to the characters, they could potentially do something good with it, even based off of where they left it in this universe that they created. I don't know. It did not deserve the bashing it got. It's not great, but I'd watch it over a Transformers movie any day. So there's that.
They should leave well enough alone and let those rights revert back to Marvel.
Yeah, they're not going
They
to.
won't,
They've said already that they're standing by the characters and the franchise. So it's not going anywhere.
More's the pity.
Yeah. I haven't read any of the new Ultimate line, the FF line of comics that they did, but from what I've seen of it, it feels like it pulled a lot from that. So
That's what I read that they did, yeah.
which is in line with a lot of the other Marvel movie stuff they've done recently, as it is anyway. So that's pretty much it.
Sean?
I have a tickle in my throat, and it's right on the verge of being there. Excuse me. I really didn't do much this week, but we did get out tonight and go see The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
How was that?
Thoroughly enjoyable. It's another
as most Guy Ritchie films are.
If you like Guy Ritchie films, I love Guy Ritchie films. I love the kinetic pacing and just sense of fun that he tends to bring to the table. And I was very, very excited. I don't know anything about The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I know it's a show. I know it was on in the 60s. Mm-hmm. And it's about spies. That's about the extent of my knowledge on this. And this is a movie about spies in the 60s. So it was like, all right, sure. So it kind of it has a very Bond-esque feel without being super, super over the top spy. It's more espionage kind of stuff. Undercover work. Fantastic soundtrack. A little hard getting past Mr. Cavill as not Superman because he shows up.
I think it's funny that they got the British guy to play an American and an American to play a Russian.
Yeah, and he was unrecognizable. It wasn't until the credits rolled at the end I went, "Oh,
you didn't realize that was Armie Hammer?
That's Armie Hammer." Mel went, "Who's Armie Hammer?" I was like, "He was the Lone Ranger."
He somehow continues to get work. Because his last two movies flopped.
He's a fine actor.
She said, have we watched that one? I was like, yeah. Or the Johnny Depp one? She goes, eh. So, that was the impression it made her. I agree with you. I think he's a much better actor than the films he's been in.
He's just not getting good roles. I mean, he's picking potential roles that could launch his career, and they keep falling on their face.
And unfortunately, I think that's kind of where this
Mirror wasn't. Yeah.
That's where this one's going to be at, is because, I mean, it's only second week of release and the theater was pretty empty. Now, admittedly, it was a late Sunday, but
he's picking up franchise films, though, is the problem.
Yeah, that's what he's trying to do.
Franchisable films.
But, no, it's thoroughly enjoyable. And Glenn especially, I think you would really get into
it
because you like spy stuff.
I really
Keith,
want to
I think you'd enjoy it because you like Guy Ritchie stuff. So.
Well, it looks like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's just not what I'm going to rush out to go see at the big theater, I don't think.
Yeah,
maybe a matinee on a Sunday at some time like we did with
we
Fantastic Four.
It's a hoot, so, yeah. But other than that, that's been about it.
Well, let's move on to news.
We have something that we're going to be adding to our next game night eventually. Warlord Games has announced they've got the rights to do a miniatures game. They revealed... let's see... Trying to find the relevant information here in this article. The license covers not just the latest series of Doctor Who, but encompasses all of the Doctors and their companions and foes, so expect to see Sea Devils as much as Weak-Beam Angels, Leela as much as Martha Jones, and a long, brightly colored scarf as much as Fezzes are cool, by the way.
Nice.
And there's not a lot of details on what they're going to do with it that I've seen. I haven't read too much into it, though, so it's pretty exciting.
This is exciting for a number of reasons, if not the least of which is that for those of you that want to do some sort of Doctor Who role-playing game, you now have miniatures to go along with your
actual RPG.
With your actual RPG. So.
I chuckled when Keith said that another one to put on game night, but we have perpetually had the RPG on game night.
Oh, that's true.
For the last 2 times and still haven't gotten around to it.
You want to be Game Master?
Where is that at, Keith?
It's in my shelf.
Where do we stand on getting that on the schedule, Keith?
You want to be Game Master?
Sure.
I'll bring the box over.
You bring the box over and I'll read.
I'll be honest. I read it and I felt so overwhelmed that I was kind of like, because I don't think I've ever even played Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, that's the problem. We've got the game in the wrong hands.
The complete
that's probably
newbie.
what it is.
Not.
You should take
DM'd?
over. I've never DM'd.
Oh,
You should probably take
maybe
over.
I should take over.
I'll bring it to you.
Let's be honest,
Been
Glenn.
a long time.
Of the 3 of us, you wouldn't be happy if anybody else was DMing.
Oh, I don't know. I played with a lot of people that I wasn't the DM.
Yeah.
Actually, sometimes I enjoy playing because I don't have to think as much.
And I see you as you sit there and you play and you go twitch, twitch, twitch.
I wouldn't have done that storyline. Yeah.
How can you make that
Not
roll?
what I had
Twitch,
done,
twitch,
but okay.
But this miniature set also says all 12 Doctors will be confirmed. And no word if there will be a Time War element or the War Doctor. So.
I would like to have a War Doctor. I would not like to have a Time War element. That's where I come down on that one.
So you can pick up a starter game as well as a hardback book detailing the instructions.
And when is this scheduled to be released?
It does not have a release date as of yet that I see.
Alrighty. Soon.
So, eventually.
I would presume they try to get it out by Christmas.
That would make sense.
Yeah, I would think they would have all the rules, and that's what they submitted already. Just got to be in production. Our next bit of news is a little bit of sad, a little bit of happy for our upcoming Wichita Doctor Who convention. I don't think we reported that Katie Manning had to cancel her appearance in person. She will be Skyping in for her panel, so at least you'll get to hear and talk to her. And as a replacement, the fine organizers have gotten Fraser Hines. So that's a great... I said this to Sarah, and I kind of stand by it, aside from the fact that having Katie there is great, and bringing a whole different group of people that would be interested. But Fraser is it almost rounds out this convention nearly perfectly between 2 Doctors and Second Doctor era. Because with Perry and Colin, and then him and...
Deborah.
Deborah
Watling.
Yeah, it just really helps flesh that out.
Well, I think
and
if they-
taps into 2 eras.
I would presume they'll put him on the Patrick Troughton years panel, and that would help kind of bolster that as well.
Yeah.
Another opinion on that. So
Not that Fraser could ever truly replace Katie,
No, not at all.
but he's a hurricane gale force in his own right.
It almost made a better fit in my mind, at least.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's.
And I don't have a Fraser yet, so I have a Katie. I don't have a Fraser
Frasier, do you?
autograph, so now I'll be able to get that one. I always figured I'd be at a convention with him one day, and I'm right. Moving along, there's a upcoming 12th Doctor book that I think the 3 of us are pretty excited about. That that previously had passed by our attention, but the more details of it recently have been released. Big Bang Generation is what the novel's called, written by Gary Russell. The audiobook is going to be read by Lisa Bowerman. That's because Bernice Summerfield is appearing in the book.
Really?
Yeah.
Have we talked about this?
No.
Okay.
This is part of the line that recently has been announced of the three book line.
Well, I think it wasn't until this week that Lisa tweeted out.
Yeah.
Bernie was returning.
In the release, it said, "I'm an archaeologist, but probably not the one you were expecting." So you can go and read description of the novel online. It looks very exciting.
I'm down for that.
Yeah,
Me too.
absolutely.
I think Bernice will be an interesting, because it's a 12th Doctor story,
Yeah.
or whatever we're calling him now. And so I think that those two would be an interesting fit. Not necessarily a good fit, but certainly an interesting pairing.
Oh, I think it's going to be fascinating to see how the characters play off of each other. Lisa Bowerman later tweeted, "Does this make me canon?"
No, Night of the Doctor made you canon.
It did?
Because it canonized all the Big Finished.
Oh, I gotcha. I was going to say, her name wasn't dropped, but I see what you're saying.
Because it canonized all of Big Finish.
And our final bit of news, another sidestep item is going to be released on DVD. Wartime is going to come out. That's the 1987 film featuring Benton in his past, and a cast that includes Michael Wisher, Nicholas Courtney in voiceover, and Nick Briggs in a very early appearance. So soon you'll be able to actually watch that and own that on DVD.
It's kind of cool that the unit stories that were made by the offshoot productions are making their way back into available media. So
Yeah.
Downtime was announced a few weeks ago that they were doing, or a few months ago that they were doing a DVD.
Yeah.
And now Wartime will make its appearance on DVD.
It's this company, Time Travel TV. So go and tell them if there are other ones you want.
We'll have to make sure to...
Time Travel TV must have bought all of Real Time's
They must have, yeah.
catalog.
It's exciting to... I really want to watch it just because I love Benton so much. To flesh him out even more.
Well, maybe we'll do a companion archive on Benton.
Ooh, there you go.
That'd be fun.
And that's it for news.
All right, well, let's move on to feedback. No,
No.
we're going to do our Doctor Who Legacy.
Tip of the week.
Who Brannigan sent us a tip.
Through feedback.
He said, "I'd like to thank you and Rachel for the recent tip of the week about taking a break from Doctor Who Legacy. I had done the first part, stopped playing, several weeks ago because I had gotten in a rut and was going nowhere. I had given up. I didn't think of playing it ever again until I heard Rachel's tip. So I heeded her idea and started it again a few days ago and having a blast again. It is fun and fresh. And I quickly got 2 more doctors. Thanks again, Rachel, and for the 3 Vorkansians for having the tip feature in your podcast."
What's the tip?
That was it. That's all I had.
That wasn't a tip. That was a thanking Rachel for her tip.
I've got a tip.
It's a reinforcement of the previous
Reinforcement of a tip. Tip reinforcements.
Take advantage. My tip is take advantage of the new level caps. Even if you have to do instant upgrades. And if you're stuck, get your doctor to the 6th level or your companion up to 6 stars. And it will help you move past stuff.
Oh,
Have you
haven't had any problems.
become
I
unblocked?
haven't moved anybody yet. So
Slightly.
Slightly.
Only slightly unblocked. I've made much more progress on the 1 level. I just need to get my companions up to the higher one. See, because I got my doctor up that I'm using, and then I just got to.
You're using that added boost there. That's actually wise. I haven't moved any of my characters up.
Well, considering you're at a wall of
Well,
done.
and that's just I'm not done, but but I think I have a more even team because all of my companions are at the previous cap, so not all.
So
of
was
them,
my
but the
team, but I
majority
don't
of
know
them.
why I'm just struggling to get through some of these levels.
Have you guys been playing any of the premium? I finally bought the premium adventures.
Did you get it to unlock?
I did get it to unlock finally. For the Sonic adventures, I haven't bought the kids version yet, but I was waiting to finish the Sonic adventures. I'm not sure how many levels it is, but I just got to the 7th Doctor's sonic screwdriver. Just dropped that one. So
I played
if I were to guess, I would say I probably played 12 levels so far.
I played just the intro level, and I thought it was in some way fitting and quite amusing that only Eric Roberts' master could have come up with this insane plan to steal sonic devices. Because that's obviously going to hamper the Doctor's being able to do anything.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, especially 9, 10, and 11.
Yeah. You go, Eric Roberts. Now, I went through a fairly massive, thorough cleansing of my iPad. I deleted a whole bunch of comics that I had on there. Pretty much anything that, I had a physical copy of. I was like, well, I don't need a digital one since I own it. So I would delete things off, trying to make room. And I don't know how much I deleted. Somewhere in the neighborhood of, it felt like 2 or 3 gigs. And Legacy still...
It felt like, or was 2 or 3 gigs?
It had to have been pretty close. And Legacy is still extremely sluggish with the new update, so I'm going to have to do a much more thorough cleaning.
I don't think it's a space issue, though. I think it's a processor issue. Because I can disable everything, and I still have everything but Doctor Legacy, and I still have.
Well, it takes not only forever to load, but just checking in with my daily thing, the Time Crystal page comes up.
You could probably put just Doctor Who Legacy on there with nothing else and free up nearly your 16 gig, and it's still.
You think?
It's a processor. We've got the old processor in our iPads. We've got old technology. We need newer devices. It was inevitable.
Don't say that.
That's what in order to get the content in the game that they are providing, it's necessary to have.
And it's part of today's society of devices quickly become obsolete.
Says the guy
take them off the shelf.
Says the guy who's still struggling to find a way to play Galactic Battlegrounds.
True.
On a Mac.
Oh, I got my computer. I need to go look for that now.
You should.
Yeah.
I think it's in my basement.
Your computer's in your basement?
Oh, no.
Battlegrounds.
Yes, my computer's in my basement.
Okay.
Now let's move on. Oh, that was our Doctor Who Legacy
tip of the week.
Now let's move on to feedback.
Our first bit of feedback comes from Robert. And Robert writes, comment question, hello again. Quick bit of info about the 2 Peter Cushing movies. Riff Tracks took both them on a while back. Both are available for download or streaming for $10 each. And here's a link for any show notes. I owned them both and liked them. I think the second is funnier than the first, but they're both worth picking up. Later, Robert.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you for the reminder. I think he mentioned that a few last year sometime when we
probably the last time we talked about.
I think so.
Dalek movies.
I think that's actually a great idea to do the riff tracks. I think when we eventually review them, we won't do the riff track versions because we want a first viewing review.
Yeah.
We'll treat it as a purist experience.
Yeah,
but and then we'll definitely come back around.
And then maybe down the line do the riff tracks. So.
And that's our first and last bit of feedback for this week. Shall we move on to our reviews?
Let's.
Well, shall we do like we did last week and start with the comic?
Yes.
Did you read the comic?
I did read the
comic.
All
right. Keith, did you read the comic?
I read the comic.
I haven't read the comic. I'm kidding.
I've read the comic. I remembered earlier today that I didn't and had time before I came over. Are you a bit more pleased with this one, Glenn? Did more happen?
Yeah.
Is it moving along for you a bit now?
They're finally getting into the meat of the story. A lot of weird stuff happens, but...
Yeah.
Do you need the
I quite enjoyed in the past 2 issues, I quite enjoyed the tandem conversation between the 3, where they would continue each other's sentences. And I think it's kind of run its course now, though. I want some independency now with the Doctors. And we get that when they're separated, but we still continue. It's almost like they're forcing them. It's like they're forcing them to, well, just briefly.
Very briefly,
yeah,
but it was still enjoyable.
But I think now they're forcing that whole continuation of dialogue between the 3, and it's getting a little old. I also want to point out that there is an incorrection in the title of this. It's the 5 Doctors.
It's true.
So we have 2 copies right now, presumably, of the 12th.
Unless the War Doctor never does make another
hasn't
appearance.
showed back up, so at this point in the story, there are still only 4.
What do you guys think of the he does not like standing up. Continuity bomb.
The what?
The continuity bomb.
Oh yeah, that was cool.
Big bomb.
Yeah.
Very, very Dalek reminiscent there, and
Was.
considering that we're dealing with a Time War leftover or something, possibly.
It's kind of meta too, because we're always talking about continuity in Doctor Who, and then we get the alternate changes from what things we're familiar with Wilf's trapped in the radiation chamber at the end of time, and then events right after the Wedding of River Song.
Yeah, with everything happening all at once.
Yeah, it was neat.
This idea that
I like the concept.
The 10th Doctor, after that, goes on to be the Time Lord victorious and ruling over Gallifrey, and then gets killed. Wow.
He's not ruling over Gallifrey.
Well,
he's ruling over the galaxy.
Yeah.
He's not ruling over Gallifrey. I mean, there's obviously Gallifrey's still gone because
fix the broken cosmos.
He decides not to.
But they've got kind of the Gallifrey type headdresses.
But it can't be Gallifrey. Gallifrey doesn't exist. Yeah. So maybe he just used.
Maybe he fixed it.
I'm sure he used Gallifrey.
Fix the broken cosmos. Maybe the Time War is one of the things he fixed while being victorious.
Oh, I suppose that
maybe his hubris is so great.
he fixed
every
it. Time locked area. Does that look like a Slovene?
I think it's
totally supposed to be a Slovene.
Yeah.
The arms aren't quite right.
At least
too muscular too. He's not squishy enough.
Yeah.
Well, just because the family Slovene let themselves go doesn't necessarily mean.
Good point.
Right, good point.
You don't all look alike. Way to be speciest, Glenn. Man.
I really like this idea that 12's alternate timeline is him not forgiving Clara. And him just staying in the TARDIS for years.
It's an interesting facet to the... Because, I don't know, in a way the Doctor's almost one step away from the Mad Hermit living on the hill anyway, you know?
Yeah.
And we've talked before about how his need for interaction and contact is what continues to drive him to this. But if he ever lost that, I'd totally... he'd shut himself up in his box and be done.
Let me ask you, is the not forgiving Clara an event we've already seen, or is it an event to come?
I think it's based off of the Dark Water prologue.
See, I didn't think...
Pre-credit sequence. That's what I immediately thought of.
I didn't think so.
With throwing the key away?
Yeah.
I thought that at first until I started to rationalize it, and it's like, but he'd already forgiven her, essentially, for that, from the standpoint that it wasn't real. You know what I mean?
But the whole idea of these is he chooses a different path. And had he chosen a different path where
I guess there's that.
I guess the question is, that's not clear, is where is this happening in the 12th Doctor and Clara's timeline? And I've always presumed that at this point, and it's never been clear, but at this point, it's beyond what we saw in Death in Heaven. And
well, we know,
although it doesn't have to be
most
because
of the
12th Doctor's era took place before that anyway.
Yeah, his comic
because
line
of the
was
fact
before
that
that.
Osgood was still alive. So
yeah, and references to Danny.
So that could be.
I've just gone with that presumption that until they say otherwise.
Well, it makes sense that they would choose that because they've chosen...
They don't want to contradict anything.
Well, they've chosen things that we've seen as well.
Yeah.
Well, but an alternate timeline, you're not contradicting anything.
Well, what if
this is set post Darkwater, Death in Heaven, Last Christmas? They don't want to potentially create issues with Series 9.
It wouldn't. The point is, it's an alternate timeline.
No, I mean...
They could have done anything.
Not this part, in general, for his story. in the comics.
Just the general 12th Doctor line.
In the line going, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree with that.
Is it possible that he's referring to the first meeting when after his regeneration in Deep Breath, where she's kind of having trouble reconciling who this guy is, and it takes the phone call from 11 to kind of...
See, here's the thing that made me think...
Don't.
Sorry. Here's the thing.
Dude, did you just fold a book?
Sorry.
Oh, my God. Can't take him out at all.
It's not even my copy.
It's like...
I'm normally much better about that.
You can tell I used to be a comic collector.
This is the guy that's got first editions and hardcovers, and he folded a book.
It didn't crease. Here's the thing that made me immediately think Dark Water, Death in Heaven. So I told her to go to hell. And that was his direct words. Granted, he meant them in a different context.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I'll buy that.
I look forward to seeing where else it goes.
So maybe we'll get the official timeline of where these comics are.
And the Vortex show back up again.
I'm sure there's already presumed guides out there of where these fit. I'm sure there's a discontinuity guide out there dealing with the comics right now. They've got one for Big Finish, and they've got one for the novels now. So,
I thoroughly enjoyed the kind of looks into these alternate timelines, and just again how gritchy the doctors are when dealing with the other. I mean, it's totally in keeping with their character, but 12 is so dismissive of Time Lord Victorious. It's like, oh yeah, of course you would do that. You're so bad. And then they get to 11, and it's just kind of like, you let everything go and got married, huh? All right. And then it's nice to kind of get the...
Did Paul Cornell write anything in the 11th Doctor era?
No.
Nope.
Except for that one comic.
Except for that one, yeah. The one that you didn't like, which I did.
Just I get the impression that the 11th Doctor's kind of getting some... He's being rubbed a little bit more than the other two.
Maybe kind of a backhanded...
Maybe Paul Cornell...
he had a story he submitted and Moffat dismissed it.
Well, I know I'm not even going to go that far, but just maybe he just didn't like the 11th Doctor that well. Because he rubs it in... He rubs a lot of things in the 11th Doctor.
He does that a lot with the 10, too.
Yeah, but 10's done in such a way of... ha-ha. And 11 almost feels like a... ha 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 ha. You know, it's just it's almost a little heavy-handed sometimes. But
I wonder if it's from the standpoint that
he's an easier target.
When 10 gets his feathers ruffled and shouts "Oi," you know, it's funny, and 11's just kind of the drunken giraffe.
A little too dismissive.
He's just there, you know. Yeah. So it's like, okay, yeah, we can pick on him.
I don't know. That was the impression I got.
I did like the even though it only lasted for a panel and a half, that we went ahead and split the companions up with different doctors. It was like, oh, cool, we're doing the 5 doctors thing, you know.
I like some of the revisitations of Marinus. If you go to the next page, you've got Clara. Is it Clara in 12 that's running around the...
Yes. No.
Yeah.
It's Gabian.
It is Gabian. And they're running around and they can't find the... No, here. This.
That's
Clara and...
That's Clara
11. Yeah. And this is that thing that they circled in Keys to Marinus several times. They couldn't figure out how to get into it.
Oh, yeah.
That's what that is. And then we got the drop about they're on Marinus, but they're under the water, and the water's made of acid. So they're really setting up this Marinus story and this Marinus trappings as we go. I think that's kind of cool. And we get another look at the boards. They look really cool.
This was another unfortunate design panel, though, where I was uncertain who this one was. Because I totally thought this was Gabby.
See, I didn't.
There was this problem with the first
with 11.
Story.
I don't think they've gotten Clara's face quite right, but I've been able now, because they're doing wider shots, to tell, okay, Clara's in the red shirt, Gabby's in the tan shirt. So I can differentiate that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Something about the way, maybe it's her posture, maybe it's something about the way that she's drawn here that I told, until the conversation led me to the, oh, no. That's, and I had to go back and.
What I don't like is that Clara had maybe she's just wearing it different, but she had almost a bob in the first issue, and now she's got long hair.
Longer hair, yeah.
Which her hair did short, long all through series.
Maybe that's a meta joke too.
Maybe it is. But I think it was just the way she was wearing it. Of course, you can get away with it in season 8 because there was so much. I mean, she was being dropped off and then going on.
It wasn't like it was mid-adventure. Her hair would change length.
Yeah. Exactly. Whereas here it has. So I'm choosing to believe that might just be meta. Or she would just had it pulled back, and I couldn't tell in the first issue.
It looked like a bob, though. It looked like a straight cut.
It did look like a straight cut. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That was, and then the climax of it was good. I didn't expect it. I didn't expect it was a.
Yeah, and I don't quite get where it's going to go. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Well, we got 3 more stories, right? 3 more issues. It's 6 issues or 5. So we got 2 more.
2 more.
2 more issues.
Getting closer.
So this feels like a good point for this kind of
up
cliffhanger.
Agreed.
Wrap up. So
and the best cliffhanger I think so far.
Did you happen to read the one at the end?
The meaning.
I didn't this time.
Sad face. Too soon. Too soon.
I guess I'll have to read it.
Yeah.
I like the second to last panel in it too.
Did you read it? You did read it.
Yeah, that one.
Well, don't spoil it, I guess.
So we're, again, thoroughly enjoying the 4 Doctors, mistitled though it may be. And
5 Doctors.
It's weird. I feel like we heaped so much praise on the other 2, and then this one, despite the story finally getting into gear and going somewhere.
This has been my favorite. I mean,
Really?
if I was underselling it, this has been my favorite issue of all of them. I mean, because I've expressed how I just felt like the story is good, but it's just been middling, and now it's just really taken off, and it's gotten interesting, and it had a fantastic. I think it's the best cliffhanger of all 3 issues.
That's the difference with this issue is the story ramps up, and the first 2 there was lots to point to on. Oh, this moment was great. This moment,
fan service.
Exactly.
That's probably what it
The
is.
first 2 had a lot of great moments in them, but overall the story was just kind of. Okay, we're getting somewhere, but and now we're really getting somewhere. So I think this is the best issue so far.
Well, next issue 4 next week.
Sorry, I was underselling it. All right, shall we move on to our reviews of our Big Finish audios we're reviewing this week?
Let's.
Shall we go chronological order or release order?
We're doing the way you guys listen to them.
I can go both ways.
So, chronological order. In Moscow, in the near future, the 5th Doctor and Turlough came across a conspiracy involving the Somnus Foundation that will cause the course of history as it should be to change.
Dun, dun, dun. I don't know. This was another one that for me was...
What was the name of this one, Keith, since you didn't say it?
Singularity.
Singular.
Oh, sorry, I thought I did.
Sorry.
It was all right. This one, there were a lot of the trappings of it that I enjoyed. I liked Moscow. That was cool because it's a different location.
Not London.
It wasn't London. Okay, cool. I liked the fact that we got this what felt like it was going to be a religious cult story that wasn't. Quite the religious cult story that I thought we were going to get.
It was just a different religious cult story than we thought.
And I liked the
cult to end all cults.
The end revelation of what the threat was from the sleepers. But it just kind of felt there.
There didn't feel like a great menace to me.
Yeah.
There didn't seem to be... It has this weird... almost classic Doctor Who meets new Doctor Who in a way that doesn't quite work. Because there's a lot of it that feels very new series with visiting the end of the universe and then the Troclophane and these things are humanity evolved, etc., etc. That felt very new series, but then with the 5th Doctor and Turlough in Russia, that all felt very classic series, more so. So the two just didn't mesh well for me.
See, and I disagree with the idea that the villains didn't feel very menacing. I thought they were very menacing. I think they were probably one of the more evil, even though it was more of an end goal than it was really a question of evil. But I thought they were very menacing, especially having listened to the last two audios we had where we felt like the villain was just kind of blasé. And even going back as far as some of the other stories where we just had political machinations and those kind of things. I thought that the villain here was solid. I thought that was great. They had an in-game goal. The stakes were huge. And,
the stakes were pretty high.
And, I mean, huge. I mean, the singularity. I mean, we're the end of all existence and one group of people moving into singularity. I thought that was huge. I think the problem I had with the story was, first of all, it was hard to follow. Second of all, they seemed to take a long time to get there.
Yeah.
And third, I think the problem with it is because, for as menacing of a villain it is, I never felt like there was that much of a threat to our heroes. Yeah. There was a threat to
I think
society.
That's what I meant,
there was a threat to humanity. There was a threat to the universe. But I never felt like our heroes were ever in danger until Turlough gets transplanted with one of the I don't remember what they were called, with one of the sleepers, but they weren't sleepers. They ended up being another group. But until that happens, but then even in that aspect, they kept driving home the fact that he wasn't from Earth. And so I knew down the line, if they ever took him and transferred him to the end and used his body and transferred his mind or spirit or whatever you want to say ahead in time, that was going to be the fix, is the fact that Turlough's not human. He's not. Right. Well, he's not. Yeah. He's not of Earth. I think we throw around the human thing a little too much and singulate it onto Earthlings, but he's not from Earth. And so,
well, doesn't he make a point of saying he's not human in this?
I think he did at one point, and then the Doctor. But I
know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I personally think that human isn't an Earth quality, and even Doctor Who and other stories have driven that home. Well, you're human. Well, I think human, because we have so many species and aliens that look human, that I think human is more of a commonality among different species than just saying this is Earth. But you're right.
If you want to get the technical humanoid versus,
which is something they do in Star Wars a lot. Right, is humanoid. So
versus
even Star Trek to that point later in
later Star Trek does that a lot. It's also, I mean, one in my mind, the dividing line is, well, if you are from the genealogy that can be traced back to Earth, even if it's after the breakout, after that we've gone and colonized the stars, that you're still human. Yeah. Whether you grew up or born on Mars or some other planet, it doesn't matter. I think if
the species has evolved near to or along the same lines as Earth, then you're human. I mean, that's I think but we're getting into the semantics of it because
that's true.
I think I saw that coming, because knowing that Turlough was not of Earth, and them not realizing that, and their arrogance of utilizing him anyway, I kind of saw that coming. So that didn't elevate the threat anymore to our heroes when suddenly I'm going, Turlough's going to be the solution here.
Well, and even when we do get to that moment of threat, when he's on this other planet and, everything's gone bad, and that moment, what are we going to do?
He's not on another planet.
Well, he's
in the future.
In the future.
Because it's humanity.
But he's not on Earth, though.
Well, he's not. You're right. They had branched.
So everything's bad. This is as bad as it's going to get for you in this story. What do we do? And he's rallying the troops. It's like, okay, how do we fix this? I'm going to go get a big stick. I'm going to go beat the crap out of that thing. And it's like, that's how we're going to solve this.
I liked that, actually.
That's in line with
made
Turlough.
sense.
It is.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I chuckled and I thought,
sense.
Go beat it up. But then I thought, what if that's the thing that leaves you stuck there? I mean, because it wasn't a well thought out plan.
No.
It was just
it was very Turlough, though.
Yeah. I'm just going to go beat that up. Okay. I don't know. I expected a little bit more from once they had dropped that that switcheroo on me that, these are the Earthlings from the end of time, I kind of my expectations got a little lofty, I think, at that point, because I was expecting a little more from it than that. And no, just a big stick. I'm going to go beat something up. So, okay, that works too.
I just my biggest problem is I felt like it felt disconnected in parts and was very hard to follow, and so I think that really kind of sours me on the story. I thought the performances were good. I actually liked the Fifth Doctor in this. I like the fact that the Fifth Doctor, he didn't get very, like, early on in Big Finish, the Fifth Doctor would get very confused or not knowing what's going on and not being so sure of what was happening, and they've kind of fixed that for me. I think he really feels very much more like the Fifth Doctor that we know from the TV series. And so that was still there in this, so that was a bonus for it. But yeah, overall, I'm kind of with Sean. It was just there. It wasn't anything to write home about, and it's nothing that I would probably go back and listen to again. But
I really liked Turlo in it throughout the entire
Turlo
story.
Yeah.
I think he was kind of the highlight of it for me.
Well, he was sympathetic for what's her name, not Natalia. Which that was the other thing is Natalia. Who was she? Because I had no idea who she was. Because
Natalia was Quell.
So Natalia was actually the one that had been put. But did we get any Natalia up until we found out that that's where she was displaced to?
No.
Okay,
no.
Then I did follow it.
we got name drops of this is who this person's supposed to be.
Okay.
We thought Quell was supposed to be.
I must
Natalia.
have missed that because the Quell thing.
Because that's why they kept recognizing her.
All right. Oh, that's right. Okay, now that you say that, that makes sense.
Because she was the face of the institute.
Right.
So.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. I'm glad you said that because that does tie it back together.
Lena.
Yeah. I knew it wasn't Lena because Lena had her own thing going on, and which I thought was fine.
She had a good backstory.
It was a great backstory. The mother, and then it was her brother that was the one that was taken, Lexi, and then they had this friend Petrov, Pavel, yeah, from Fiddler on the Roof.
The most Russian name,
and I absolutely loved. I loved his character because he was this conspiracy theorist who was almost to the point where he was doubting his own conspiracy stories, and then suddenly he meets two time travelers, and I thought, how cool is that? It's like my faith is wavering. Oh no, justified. Yeah. I like that.
And it would have been so easy to play that character for laughs.
Yeah.
And really send up this, conspiracy nut.
And they did a little bit,
but
especially
not
when
at first.
He was talking about his bunker. Well, actually, it was his mother's basement.
Yeah. But I mean, it could have gone in that direction for so far.
And they did, and I appreciate that.
They did, and they pulled it back. The thing that I really liked was, as we've talked before so many times, the TARDIS gets separated for purposes no other reason than we're going to separate you from your time ship and cause an additional problem here. And this time, the TARDIS gets TARDIS napped and tortured. And I mean,
that part was
and the other thing that was nice about it was late in the game too. It wasn't early on.
Yeah, we got to utilize the TARDIS. It wasn't just sitting there in the corner not doing anything.
And the Fifth Doctor
took it to go back in time, which was kind of I thought was really cool.
The Fifth Doctor managing once again to create a self-completing loop
prophecy
that he's involved with. But
which what I have decided by the Fifth Doctor is he really needs to stay away from instances that are going to cause fires because he's every time he messes something up or causes that causal loop, it's always has to do with fire. Not that he could have known in this situation or any situation, but it just, unfortunately, there's a common link with the Fifth Doctor and fire and being the cause and effect for things.
Well, and kind of a bit of fun future retconning as well when she's laying down the list of things that he may have been responsible for and throws out Titanic and he doesn't say anything. And it's like, well, he will be there.
Not a fire, but an iceberg.
We don't know what caused that, but maybe.
I also like the almost romance brewing between Turlo and what's her face? I just said her name. The Lena. It felt like they connected and they almost could have had something.
Yeah.
And then at the end,
it made him very sympathetic for her too. Oh yeah. And so I liked that.
And his speech to her about time not caring and just rolling over. Wow.
Yeah.
Which is great because it was something very, very much the Doctor would say. And so it actually kind of, believe it or not, in a strange way, it really adds growth to Turlough's character.
Oh yeah,
because
absolutely.
of the fact
this whole
that
story does.
he sort of has realized that. He's come to that realization. He's no longer the Turlough that was, out to kill the Doctor. He's now very sympathetic and understanding and respectful. He respects the Doctor enough so that he recognizes things that the Doctor has taught him through this time they've been together.
Even just through the story, he grows a lot.
He does. And I think that the interesting thing about that, though, is he still has those moments of, okay, fine, just go do it. He did do that at one point with Lena.
Yeah.
But then realizes, oh, no, that's not the right thing to do. So he still has moments of Turlough. So he's very familiar as a character, but he also experiences that growth, and that really kind of broadens the character as well.
Yeah,
so
it feels like the Turlough you see it in Planet of Fire.
Yes. Yeah, he's come a long way. Agreed.
Well, I think that was maybe what kind of helped lend the idea, at least that you and I think kind of shared, that this felt like the story right before Planet of Fire.
It felt like we were leading towards his departure.
Is not only did we get that character
sense.
growth, not only did we get that kind of older, wiser Turlough, but we got some of those lines like, "Oh, you've been with me long enough. Just go look for things that are unusual." And then Turlough, makes a comment, "Well, maybe I've traveled with you too long," or something.
Yeah.
Something to that. It's just
you get the impression that he's a little tired of traveling with him.
Yeah, that he's just kind of giving, and which I still don't get. It's fine for that character. It's fine for this companion, but man, I'd be bounding out of bed every morning in my bunny slippers and pajamas, standing in the console room. Where are we going today, Doc? Just. What are we going to do? Who are we going to fight? What are we going to? Yeah, okay, let's do it. He would throw me out. He would physically have to throw me out of the TARDIS before I got tired of traveling with him. I don't get it. But
or leave you behind to crash into the Earth and cause the extinction of the dinosaurs.
That's probably what happened to me. Instead of sitting there going, I can do the math on this, and be like, man, I don't know anything. What do these buttons do? Which one cues up the Wizard of Oz? So, why am I blanking on his name? Turlough actor.
Mark Strickton.
Mark Strickton, thank you. Great. Fantastic. And having seen him at Galley, where he talked about having to put on the Turlough voice when he gets possessed and comes out and he's talking normally, and I'm like, who is that guy? Did we get? And I literally stopped for a minute and thought, did we get a new character? Did I miss an introduction or something? And then it's Turlough, and I was like, oh, clever boy, that's so cool. That's you. And then of course in the next scene, he's on the other planet and he's talking like Turlough again. It's like, that's just awesome. But yeah,
while listening to it, I thought to myself, I wonder if they set this in Russia so that they could have the different voices, the different accents, so that you could kind of tell the difference between the person that's on Earth and the person that's in far future.
Possibly.
But they're played by different actors.
Oh.
At least Natalia and Quell were. So,
I still think in a way it makes sense because the Russian accent in particular is such a striking
When Turlough's body on Earth is talking, I assumed it was a different actor. That's why I thought there was such a stark difference there.
Yeah.
So.
But no, I think because the Russian accent and Russian in particular is such a distinctive.
It helps differentiate, for sure. I just kind of expected them to be the same actors. And was
it's not somebody trying to do a bad American accent or or something. It's just it's Russian. There's no mistaking it for anything other than Russian. So yeah, this it had a lot going for it. I just kind of wish that there had been a little more there. I don't know.
I really liked how it ended too, with the Doctor knowing that the TARDIS left at the last second and Turlough not, and kind of being like, well, I guess we're stuck here again.
And the Doctor kind of leads him on a little too long, I thought, but well.
I liked all of that.
And the idea that at this stage especially, it wouldn't be anything for this to happen in New Who. For the Doctor to drop a line like, oh, she probably went to rest up for a couple 100 years before meeting us up here. But for the fifth Doctor to do it, that was a big, oh, okay. Because many times throughout the classic series, despite their love and dependent relationship, you almost feel like the Doctor and the TARDIS quarrel far more than they should.
Yeah.
She's like the Perry of companions. She's just constantly, no, I don't want to do it. Stop beating on my console. Will you open the door the right way? And just, fine, I'm going to leave you here. But at
Quit
this
leaving
point,
the parking brake on.
Yeah. At this point, it's, she went away to go do, take a break, and she'd be back.
She had to go rest up.
Yeah. And it was just like, okay. We've evolved that relationship as well. So that was cool.
It was.
Yeah. Shall we move on to the Council of Nicaea?
Sure.
The Fifth Doctor, Aramim, and Perry travel to the city of Nicaea in 325 AD to witness the First Council of Nicaea. However, religious fervor is running high, and theological disputes threaten to spill over into actual violence. In the midst of this, the Doctor and Aramim find themselves on different sides.
I want to give this one a really strong dun dun dun, but I don't know that I can.
Oh, I quite enjoyed this.
I enjoyed this one too. And I enjoyed...
This is the first pure historical that we've heard in
that's what I really appreciated about it.
Long time. No alien intervention,
I kind of expected
no
alien
science
intervention.
fiction, no...
Yeah.
I completely enjoyed it.
I don't know, maybe I'm still percolating on it. I liked the fact that it was a pure historical. I was frustrated with Perry coming down on one side, Aramim coming down on the other side, and the Doctor, as the Fifth Doctor, is kind of frequently forced to do, not just with these two, but with any group of companions in the TARDIS.
Pick a side.
Well, playing moderator.
Yeah.
That's what he did through all of his years of TV, was kind of tried to be the voice of reason. And
I like that very early on, though. After like the first episode, the Doctor... Well, he's in the first episode, he's very... No, this is how it needs to be.
Right.
And is on the other side of Aramim. And
very Aztec Doctor.
Perry is a bit in the middle, more than the Doctor is, trying to play moderator. And then he wins her over to his side of thinking. I like that aspect of it. So I didn't think there was that long of him trying to be moderator between the companions.
Agreed.
Yeah, but not even just necessarily between the companions,
because
but
I would
between
agree.
Constantine
in this situation,
We're trying to play peacekeeper.
Yeah,
Peacekeeper, yeah.
In this situation, between the companions and the Doctor, I agree. Perry was the moderator. She was the one that was trying to make the Doctor see Aramin's side, and she was one also trying to make Aramin see the Doctor's side. If there was any moderator in this, it was Perry in this, which I was glad that she kind of took a middle ground on it, because one of the things I don't like about this is we've been exploring Aramin's character, and she's grown as a character, and her relationship with the Doctor and Perry have been put through trials in the last two stories we listened to, and then suddenly we've come to a point where she's kind of grown and the relationship has changed, and then it was like we slid Aramin way back because she suddenly became hot-headed, stubborn Aramin again, who at one point she grew to trust the Doctor implicitly, and now suddenly she's like, the Doctor's wrong. And that I didn't. Only thing I didn't like about
even
it.
to the point of, okay, I'll leave you here.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'll stay. And it's like...
I thought that was a gregreat cliffhanger, though. I really appreciate it.
It works for a cliffhanger, but it stinks because of the fact that, it stinks for the fact that if this had been a story where Aramin had still been the character she had been, 3 or 4 stories ago, sure, a wonderful cliffhanger. But it was so out of character for Aramin at this point. So.
Yeah, she definitely jumped in with both feet for Arius way quicker than she probably I think she should have.
Yeah.
And it's
and I found it very interesting that it was the fact that I liked that it was that she was trying to get somebody proper justice and have their voice heard, and she didn't care about the religious aspect.
Yeah, it wasn't even that she sided with his reasoning.
Views.
It was just siding with you have the right to be heard. And I did like that. I think it's interesting that we have this pure historical, and unlike the Aztecs, which is all of the drama that kind of runs throughout the Aztecs is under threat of harm to Team TARDIS. That's what we're really, not so much the changing history part of it, but if we're caught, this is what the consequence is. Whereas with this one, I never really felt like the peril was to them directly. It was more the damage to the time stream of what could happen. And so getting to the end of the story, and there were moments of genuine, where she's going to, well, let's go lead a march at the emperor's house. He'll be all right with that, and he'll listen to us. Like, oh, Jesus, this is not going to end well for you. What are you thinking? But to go through all that and then get to the end and go, yeah, it didn't matter. Time is still, this is what happened. This is still where you're at. It kind of felt like a great big exercise in nothing happened.
But it didn't change. They didn't change anything. But I did like the fact that they did change stuff. In the big scale, no, they didn't. But they improved Arius' life. The fact that Constantine then later reversed his stance on Arius and brought him back and exiled the other guy and gave him even though his belief did not get taken for gospel, he still wound up having a better life than if they hadn't intervened.
See, in the way that they played that off at the end, I kind of took that to be that's what the standard history would have run out anyway.
I didn't get that impression.
Let me interject here because I owe a little bit of Nicaea, and I did do I did a little research this week as well. What I really liked about the story is this was a perfect event to place the Doctor in, because this is one of those times in history where there's a lot of debate amongst historians and scholars as to how this really went down and what really happened. And I don't know if it's because the record isn't clear enough or because Christianity within there sort of taints the historic record in the way that the Bible taints the historic record in the way that while it's documentation, it also has a lot of faith-based representation. Mm-hmm. So I think, and this isn't biblical. This is obviously after the Bible, because this is the point where they came together. The different factions of Christianity were actually three, but there's only two in this instance because two of the factions agreed with the idea of divinity of God, of Christ's divinity, and it was the Arians that had the differing view. So they really had kind of come together. The Christians and the other group had kind of come together on that idea, and that's why the Arians lost out. So it was 3-1 or 2-1. But what I liked about this is it was really placed in a kind of gray area of history anyway, as far as our history goes. Scholars are still debating on what exactly happened here or how it actually played out. And the facts are that the Arians came in with one proposal. The Christians came in with another proposal. The Christians won out. They decided against the Arian view of divinity. And the Arians, Arius specifically was exiled, and he was sent away. And depending on what view of history you see, Arian did make his way back into Constantine's favor, and in fact, the Arians grew within the empire before being pushed out again by the Christians, and then what later became Catholicism. So it's interesting that they played with this aspect, and they gave the team something to do that might have influenced that. Yeah. And that's why I like the fact that at the end, because when they came up to it and they were talking about it, I kept thinking, we're not even going to address that Arian and Arius and Constantine later became friends. But then they do, because then the Doctor says, well, actually, and he gives more of the story in dialogue. And so I like that, because I thought, okay, well, they really did kind of come down on what the majority of history believes happened in this situation. So the other thing that I liked about this is the fact that Constantine, while he was a Christian himself, and he was very faith-based in Christianity, he really did, in what we know of the historical evidence, he really did bring these groups together and was a moderator. He was you guys get together and you figure this out for the best of Christianity. Because what was happening,
decide based off your decision.
Yeah, because what was happening was, well, for the longest time leading up to, I think it was even Theosis that started Christianity within the Roman Empire. But Constantine certainly had a hand in solidifying it. But Christians were persecuted up until this point. I mean, there was a lot of, in fact, that's where the term martyrdom comes from, because a lot of Christians were dying for their beliefs, Arians and Christianity. And so Constantine stepped in, and as they were feuding within the church themselves, he realized that the church needed to be a foundation. If you're going to have a religion, if you're going to have a belief system, you've got to all be on the same page. Mm-hmm. And so he did bring them together, and he had no intention of influencing the council. And a lot of people felt like Constantine was going to influence the council, and he didn't. So that's the other thing that I thought this story did well, was it did set Constantine up outside of while Aramin thinks that Constantine's got a hand in this, the story plays out where Constantine really only wanted peace within the empire. Yeah. And I like the fact that they related that to the actual story as well. So I give them huge props for taking what we do know and what I think is the best basis for the historical evidence and utilizing that and being able to place our characters in and go, okay, it's a gray area, so we can do sort of whatever we want and influence the events and still have no record of the Dr. Perry and Aramin even being there, and that Arius, because he was the figurehead of the Aryan movement, gets all of the credit or blame for what happens and for the Aryans. The thing that I think, the only thing that I could tell, and I'm sure that a historian, somebody that's better than me, could point out and knows this era better than I, in the just short research that I've done, the one difference that I noticed historically is that Arius actually was not kept outside and sent bishops as representatives. Arius actually was in the council and did try to defend himself, or defend his point of view, or the point of view of his group. So that was the only thing that I thought was maybe But again, you can set that in the whole gray area of there's so much, there's not enough as evidence here. We're still debating this.
Maybe I just need to go back and listen to it again then, because I really felt like there was so much that I liked. I liked the fact that Constantine was not a dyed-in-the-wool villain, which he initially they kind of started to paint him that way.
I love the fact that they set us up with something, and then give us something.
Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that as I said, that Aramin was kind of spearheading the charge for him, and then that it did work out. I love the fact that Perry wasn't the one because it would have been very easy for Perry to kind of come down on one of these sides and be the mouthpiece, as a television series episode probably would have made her, and that wasn't it. I agree with you that Aramin kind of backslid there, but I don't know. There was something. I liked the fact there weren't aliens in it. That it was just that this was what happened. Weren't aliens. That there wasn't. Well, there was not aliens. Least, well,
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I felt like it had great potential that didn't quite live up to it. I don't know. I was frustrated.
I think what this story and again I got more enjoyment out of it. I think because I did some of the backstory and the history of it. I think what this particular story serves as is more of one of what the original Doctor Who was intended for. It was something that was supposed to entertain but also educate at the same time. And I think that was their attempt here. Let's do a historical in the pure sense of how it was intended in the early days in Hartnell's era. And I think they achieved it better here than they ever did in any of the early stories of Doctor Who. I mean, you know me, I love the gunfighters. Love that story. But I'm the first one to point out, that's not right. That's not right. That's not right. That's not historically accurate at all. And I would hope that no child, especially a British child, was learning about the Wild West from this story. But in this one, Big Finish attempted to do something, I think, to give you a little more insight, because had you ever heard of Arius before this?
Yeah, no, I haven't.
No. So,
I hadn't heard of the council before this. It was news to me that you brought it up. And I liked the fact that we got not just a historical, but a religious story that didn't automatically default into cult or but also there's those stereotypes
it
that you
treated
tend
the religion
to get.
very respectfully.
It didn't struggle to put a scientific or logical spin on Christianity. It just let Christianity be what it was.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that too. All about the divinity of God. That's where we get the. In fact, Council of Nicaea is the reason that Christianity continued as God the Father and Son, and then later it was sort of revamped for Holy Spirit. So you have the Holy Trinity. Because Christianity believes that there's one God, and three figures within the Godhead. So you've got Christ, you've got God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. All one God. Still works with the biblical aspect of only believing in one God, but you've got three that have existed together since creation. So it's interesting, and it's interesting that the Arians felt that God was one entity and that Christ was another entity, and that Christ didn't necessarily be elevated to the divinity that God was, which is even argued today. I mean, not within Christianity, but scholars that look at Christianity and say, well, you're contradicting yourself saying there's one God, but then you say there's a God, there's a Father, a Son, and a Holy Spirit. That's three gods. No, it's not. This is the reason. It's interesting that at one time that debate, in the second century was being had then, and it's still on the other side, still being debated today. So.
Where would this be set in relation to the Titan Comics 11th Doctor story?
This would be. This is actually after because Constantine, at the point that he was not emperor at the time that we visit.
Okay, he's still consolidating his power at that point. He
was battling. There's an eternal battle within the Roman Empire at that time. What was happening was they had one Caesar, but they had many different governing heads within the different regions. And what had happened was the Roman Empire was beginning to splinter, and they had different ideals on how the empire was to be run. And what Constantine did is he was stationed with, and I can't remember the particular Caesar's name, but he was stationed with that. He was taken from his home, which would have been the other in the western side of the empire, and was taken and was being groomed and basically for leadership. Not necessarily as emperor, but groomed for leadership in the hierarchy. And what happened was that particular leader died, and so he went home to be with his father. And when his father was rejoined with his father took ill, and basically he took over for his father for that region. Mm-hmm. And what he decided was that he recognized that the empire was splintering, that they needed commonality, and they needed one true Caesar. And so that's when he started to battle the other different governing factions. There was a lot of civil war within that time. And it ended up coming down to Maximilian, who was the one that he was fighting on that bridge. And that bridge was the pinnacle battle that we see in that. Constantine comes, defeats Maximilian, and becomes Caesar and Roman emperor over the Roman Empire. So that would have taken place probably 30, 40 years before Nicaea. That's actually when Constantine came to Christ too. I think I recounted the story that the sign was and it was actually in historical accounts. They saw at the battle. They saw Christianity had already been a thing. It was already growing. It was already something that had been percolating over the 300 years since Christ had died. But he was introduced to Christianity. He knew it existed, but he wasn't necessarily a man of God. He still worshipped the Roman gods. And Christianity was kind of becoming, and when he saw a pillar of fire in the sky, he saw a comet, he saw something fall from the sky, and then a huge pillar and that which the story explains that away as being the entity crashing on Earth with the Cyberman ship. So, but yeah, that was that, and that's what sold him on that was a sign of God, and that God was the one true God.
So, if anything, then this audio story reinforces how good that comic story was. No, hear me out, because when Alice is kind of reading him the riot act over, do you have any idea what you've set in motion here? And how many wars you have caused.
He did.
He knew because he'd already been here.
Just a later time.
Just a later time and knowing what was going to set up.
All right. Knowing that there was another battle coming anyway.
I like this story now.
Good.
I'm kind of surprised there's not more stories in Big Finish or on television set during this time period, because there's so much political drama that you could pull from to create great stories.
I thought this whole
still
week,
remain historically ambiguous.
I thought this whole week that it was very serendipitous that we did that Titan comic story that we did the Aztecs which was nearly a pure historical, and this story, and there are a lot of parallels between this and Aztecs, as you pointed out. I mean, relative parallels, not like you said. In that, it's more about the companions, and hey, if we get caught, it's not a we're going to break time. This one is a little different in that sense, but they both have that. We've landed into a historical event that things have to play out the way they play out.
Well, and I kept when Peter Davison was giving his speech about, you can't change history, I was like, you got to say it, man. You got to get the line. Not one, and then it didn't come. I was like, oh, that was a missed opportunity.
It certainly was.
But like I said, I'll have to percolate on it a little bit more. You guys have helped me enjoy it a lot more now that I'm thinking about it than what I did coming off of it. Coming off of it, I didn't hate it by any stretch of the imagination, but coming off of it, I was just kind of like, eh.
And I wonder if I didn't know any backstory on Nicaea, or I hadn't looked into it more this week, I wonder if I would have been in the same spot. Because it really, if you look at it, you pull all that out of it, and you look at it, there's not a lot that happens. It's really an inner struggle between the companions and the Doctor. And there's a story that's going to play out no matter what you do. There's a story that's going to play out through the whole thing, and it's really more of a story of the Doctor and Ahriman than it is what's happening in the situation they've been landed in. So I might have come down on the side of, but knowing more about Nicaea, it sort of helped me elevate this story up to me.
Well, and I don't know a lot about it. I just know the bare bones, and I thought the debates, the theological and political debates happening, and it was fascinating.
I did too. That was another thing that I really liked, is that once again that we had not only a religious story, but one that they weren't afraid to tackle these theological issues.
And then they even went further to the rights. What is basic human rights, and what is just, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly, and kind of threw that out there, and I was like, wow, this is cool. And in typical Doctor Who fashion, when I get to one of these that I don't know much about, it did pique my interest. It's one of those that's like, wow, I wish I knew more about this time frame, and maybe I should do some research on it to make sure that So anytime you do that, obviously you've succeeded as a story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Especially with me.
Eustathius of Antioch, I believe, was the other group that was there that ended up siding with Euryus of Caesarea against the Athenius of Alexandria.
Anything else on this story?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
This one gets a thumbs up for me. I didn't done very heavy at the first, but this got a thumbs up.
Well, go back and give it the opportunity. So Keith has just finished reading the last line. Blah blah blah. The Council of Nicaea.
Dun dun dun.
Okay.
It's a good dun dun dun.
And Keith agrees.
He agrees with that.
All right.
Then so say we all. I'll go along.
So say we all. All right, we're going to come out on the schedule.
I don't know. We don't do a schedule.
I knew if I said it wrong, I'd throw you off. Schedule. Well,
coming up next on the schedule, Friday Night Who this week. As always, you're welcome to join us if you have the opportunity. We were going to be finishing off Planet of the Spiders with John Pertwee and Sarah Jane and Sergeant Benton and the lovely Brigadier, if he manages to get to this other planet, and some terrifyingly horrible creatures that are scuttling around on 8 legs. We'll do parts 4 through 6. We push play at midnight on that one. Next week's episode, number 245, we will be reviewing Planet of the Spiders, which is not one we've tackled before. So you'll get our thoughts on it, and maybe some info from Dr. Phil as well. Seems like one he'd be into, doesn't it?
It does.
And then the following week, we will do the finale of Series 8. So if you didn't get a chance to get out into theaters to see it, Dark Water, Death in Heaven, you can join us for Friday Night Who and watch it. And then our final round of Big Finish for a while for episode number 246 as we close out the first season of the 8th Doctor Adventures with episodes number 7 and 8, Human Resources, Part 1 and Part 2. Then it's time for TopCon here in town. So if you are in the area, please come down and say hi to us. TopCon looks like it's going to be a fantastic event this year. They've got a lot of good stuff lined up. We will obviously be there. iBot, Iron Brothers of Topeka, many other fine guests will be there as well for a big geek extravaganza. And we will be doing a special Friday Night Who on the 18th of September with The Rescue with William Hartnell, and we will get you the time as soon as I get confirmation from the convention organizers. And then, obviously, that weekend is the big one. That's the launch of Series 9.
Yay! The wait is almost over.
So we'll get The Magician's Apprentice that Saturday, and we'll be talking TopCon and our thoughts on that episode as well.
And there are lots more fun things to come.
Lots more, including maybe some role-playing.
Yeah.
And some miniatures, and some...
Make sure you follow us on all of the various social media. We're on Facebook and Twitter, and be sure that you continue to support us on Patreon. Every bit of money that you send to us goes right back into this podcast so that we can continue to bring it to you. And we have designs on our Spreadshirt shop. We certainly appreciate you to give it a look. And if there's something that tickles your fancy, you may certainly purchase one of those and support the show that way. And also our Amazon store. If you click through from there to Amazon, that part of those proceeds will also go towards this show. So, anything else we need to tackle before we leave today?
A big thank you to all of our listeners. As always, we would be sitting around doing this without you, but it wouldn't be nearly as much fun or exciting.
Yeah.
And there certainly wouldn't be as much technology involved with microphones and computers. It would just be the three of us sitting around the table going, "What'd you think?"
Wait, we could still do this without all this?
We could still do this
so
without
much
this.
easier on me.
It would be. And you know what? Since you brought it up, a big thank you to Glenn for carrying the bulwark of the podcasting work.
Oh,
All the editing,
the
the
and
technical
posting
mumbo
on
jumbo
the,
that
you
we
know,
don't quite get.
He makes Keith and I sound good. He makes Keith sound good. I don't know what much he does for me.
You guys
but-
shoulder just as much responsibility by coming up with the topics and doing the scheduling and keeping us on task. And Keith every week coming up with the news items, keeping track of the feedback. You guys shoulder just as much. It is a group effort. And
maybe your end looks more daunting from my seat. I don't know. But.
For all that
I don't
I do
wanna
on
tackle the
for all that I
scheduling,
do
so-
on the technical aspect, I have very little to do with what you guys do. So that's a huge amount of work off of my plate. So I certainly appreciate all that you guys do and put into it.
And we appreciate everybody that listens and writes in with feedback or heck, give us some suggestions on topics you'd like us to tackle. Why not? It doesn't have to be the top down.
We promise to write
method.
them down and not try to just remember them, because if we just try to remember them, we forget.
Yeah, we'll put it into the spreadsheet, and
We promise
figure it
to
out.
try to remember to write them down. That's as far as I'm willing to commit to it.
That's why we don't have Sean write things, because he'll forget to write them down.
The technological Neanderthal doesn't understand pencils.
If there's anything Sean's good at, it's remembering to forget.
Yes.
All right, if that's going to do it for this week. Until next week, I'm Glenn.
I'm Sean.
I'm Keith.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.
Be seeing you.
You have been listening to Traveling the Vortex. Doctor Who and all of its associated programs are owned and trademarked by the BBC. No infringement is intended or implied.